Hello, welcome back to Capes and Phasers. I'm Trev, and he is Gray,
That's me.
somewhere. Uh, we're back for a tumultuous episode of Season 3 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Episode 9, titled Terrarium. Um, I've got a funny feeling Gray is going to be talking a lot more about this episode than me, not because I didn't enjoy it, but because he literally remembers all of TOS pretty well and has watched it several times through. So the man is a lot fresher in the memory than me of this. But yeah, we'll certainly dive into it. I'm curious to get your opinions, Greg, because you haven't shared too many of them with me. So essentially, Ortega is going on a solo mission to almost redeem herself after what happened before. And there is gravitational anomalies and things all around the area, and she's got to fly in a shuttle to try and get closer readings and measures. And she does in a specially retrofitted shuttle, which all of a sudden um, kind of deploys where it has to deploy the probe, but then immediately almost disappears from Enterprise's sensors. It's went through a wormhole and it's appeared out in the middle of nowhere and landed on a little asteroid, for the want of a better word, or moon. Moon is a better word, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, crash lands, and then she tries to make water for herself. She tries to make food for herself. She makes food by trying to go out and look for food on this moon. I'm thinking, no way. You know, the first of all, Gray, the air she says is kind of breathable. I think that's a bit far fetched. This little
Mm.
moon or asteroid in the middle of space that has some sort of atmosphere. Am I clutching at straws by being annoyed by that, or is that just
Well, I
for
think
storytelling?
I I agree with you a little bit, but then again, when you see the rest of the story and you see what happens at the end, then it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Plus, the other thing I was kidding around, but not kidding around, is the fact that if they did do that and they had to throw the two of them, the Gorn and her, into spacesuits, it wouldn't have worked.
Why?
So, huh?
Why?
Because you wouldn't have been able to see their face right. They want to see expressions and
Yeah.
all that kind of crap, and you can't do
But
it.
I would have had them I would have had Ortega in a suit, but then when she meets the Gorn in the protective little force field, then takes it off. That's how
Then
I would
takes
have
it
done
off.
it.
Yeah, no, that definitely would have been a little bit better.
Um, but I guess for storytelling purposes, like you say, they just don't do it like that. That's
Yeah.
fine. I
They
get
probably
it.
are
I
also
get it.
looking at the bottom line and going like, "Let's see, if we get rid of the suit, it'll cost us this much less. Okay, let's do it."
A suit doesn't cost a lot of money. They've already got them
Hey,
made,
when
more
you're
or
penny
less.
pitching on a budget, you find everything that you can.
Yeah, true, true.
I mean, look at I'll give you for instance, when she was in the shuttlecraft and she crashed on the planet or whatever, the moon. Um, it was her, and then you hear the crash, but you don't see the thing crash, and the next thing you know, it's there and it's already crashed. So that whole
Yeah.
sequence of making it crash and showing it to crash is expensive. And
Oh
so
yes.
they just
Yeah.
went, yeah, we can skip this, and which they can. I get it.
CGI is very
I would
expensive.
rather them skip that than to skip the part where the Enterprise goes in with its stable warp field to hold open the wormhole.
Yeah.
That was a cool scene, so I'd rather see the cooler scene than.
Which costs a lot of money for that. Even that one scene with the Enterprise doing its thing, yeah, like that
Probably.
CGI is stupidly expensive. It's great. There are not enough special effects houses around, which is part of the reason why
Yeah.
they can't make as many episodes and seasons of programs that we like. But yeah, no, it's an interesting concept. She's crashed the shuttle. She comes across a Gorn who's trapped there and stuck there as well. Another pilot like herself,
Mhm.
female pilot who doesn't kill her, actually catches a bit of the local wildlife, like a little critter or creature, rips it
Right.
apart and gives Ortega a bit to eat. And the first piece she eats has not been cooked and flamed. It's not been Burger Kinged at the
Yeah.
start. So she's like, let's eat it. And they start getting to know each other a little bit. And Ortega uses the tricorder to actually be some kind of universal translator, because we kind of had translators at this stage in Star Trek, but I guess they weren't sophisticated like we know them later on in Star Trek, but they do the
Well,
job.
I also think that she was kinda cobbling together something, so she said, "This is not a universal translator, but it'll have to do." So they had universal translators, obviously, but she had to cobble things together to get, which I thought was one cool aspect I liked. She built this little thing, but it could only say agree or disagree, even though they could understand each other. The answers could only be agree or disagree. So
Yeah,
that was kind of cool.
yeah.
By the way, I don't know if you ever saw this movie, but the other thing that made me think strongly about the when I watched this episode was there was a movie called Enemy Mine. It was out in 1985,
No,
and the whole premise of the movie, and it did quite well back then. It was a great movie. Was an American astronaut, space traveler, whatever, crashes on a planet, meets an alien he's never seen before, or whatever, and same story. I mean, pretty much. They had to survive. They hated each other. Then they had to get along, and then they were friends, and then da 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 da.
yeah.
Really good movie. So they definitely leaned on that's not a new thing. Not exactly. I mean, the trope, as we call it, for what they did in this episode has been done before.
Hmm.
It's all a matter of how you adapt it for Trek or whatever. But I vividly remember the episode TOS Arena, and I remember that movie. Um, for those that don't
Interesting.
for those that don't know TOS like I do, the episode was called Arena. I believe it was yeah, first season, episode 18. And this is when the Federation first met the Gorn. This is where we get into a problem with canon
Yeah.
on Strange New Worlds. So the Metrons were introduced for the first time to us
Who we see at the end.
in TOS. Technically, now, if you're going to go by this timeline, the Metrons were now known. Although what I thought was, of course, a good cover up to this is that when the Metrons appeared to Ortega, he said, "You're not going to remember us, but I'll let you remember what you went through." And then so she has no idea the Metrons even exist. We do because the ones that have seen these old episodes. So so now we're getting into kind of the area where you and I were chatting a little before the podcast with this whole canon thing.
Yeah.
And I know, although I haven't looked on the internet, that people are screeching back and forth, canon, no, not canon. No, it's the same universe. No, it's a different universe. No, well, yeah, and
Yeah.
it rages on. Um, I kind of hope they don't. I kind of hope they don't say Strange New Worlds is in a separate timeline because I get so sick of that after a while.
It's
That's
a
all.
poor excuse. It's a piss poor excuse, Greg.
Yeah, and it seems like, and this is a problem with not just Star Trek, but it's also Marvel and DC and all the others. They can just explain it away and go like, "Well, that was another universe, and this is another one," and then they explain it away again, and they start another universe, and then they explain it again and start another universe. Like, come on, man, you can't keep doing
Yeah.
this.
It's an excuse for poor story writing or running out of
Yeah,
ideas, you know?
definitely.
So,
So assuming for a moment that it is the same timeline. Then they've been trying to be careful how they handle canon, but they've been kind of falling down on their face a little here and there. Um, I mean,
yeah.
I give them credit for trying, but they're not trying hard enough. So it's like we didn't see the Gorn for the first time until Kirk's Enterprise, and yet we've seen the Gorn now, kind of. I mean, uh, if anything, now Ortega's fully seen the Gorn, an
Yeah.
adult Gorn. So before, remember you and I were talking, we're getting away with it because they've seen the Gorn, but they didn't really see the adult Gorn. They only saw the baby Gorn,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Now she's seen an adult Gorn. So what does that mean? That means she's seen the first Gorn, but Kirk was supposed to have seen the first Gorn. Hello. So so now we're already
Yeah.
screwing it up. That's why I don't want them to come out and say it's another universe. Please, please don't do that.
I don't think they will.
I mean,
I
I'll,
don't
I'll
think they
kind
will.
of accept their stupid mistake on the canon quicker than I'm going to accept the excuse that it's another universe.
Yeah, they're skirting too close to the line. That's
Yeah,
what they're doing, Gray. That they see that line and they get on it and they start riding that line. That literally between crossing it.
yeah,
It's why risk it? Why not just do original storytelling
hmm
than do that? It's a bit lazy. Yes, did I enjoy this episode? Yes, I did. Do I remember the scene of Kirk and Gorn for the first time? Yes. Do I remember the whole episode? No. So that's why you said that to me. Oh yeah, yeah, we've seen that before. Um, it just at the end when we meet the Metrons. for us the first time. I'd forgotten that was a thing in TOS, that TOS arena episode. And
Hmm.
I just think when we do see them in the arena, because I don't remember how the episode went, and you might be able to fill in the blanks here.
Almost the
When we
same
see
way.
when we see them in that episode, why do you think the Metrons then would repeat the exact same experiment? And if you can just make it brief and tell me essentially how the end of Arena ends and how it links into the episode we
I
just saw.
I would have to go back and and remember what the Metrons said at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Same thing. They appeared at the end, just like they did here. But I think, and again, this may be a poor excuse for on the writer's fault, but the Metrons in this episode of Strange New Worlds said, "You're not ready yet, so we'll revisit this at some other day," which
Yeah.
gave the opening to the part where Kirk gets in front of the Gorn. And the Metrons at that point, I'll have to go back and look, but they talked again to Kirk, and I don't know, I don't believe it went real well then either, but it was better than this time. Let's say but they're still farting around. Um, and so their area of the universe where they like to screw with people is kind of avoided now by Starfleet, or whatever.
Ah, is that the conclusion then? Just stay away from
Well,
them, put
it's
warning buoys
kinda
up.
it's not really spelled out, but you kinda get the feeling or the gist, you know,
Yeah.
like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
we're done, we don't, how dare you screw with us," and how that's not very nice,
But
and
the thing is, great, we've seen species like this many times in Star Trek, right? They seem very Q-like, don't they? But probably not quite as powerful as the Q. But literally, they can set these things on a whim, wipe people's memories, set them up. They are very, very powerful and strong. I take it we don't know much about the Metrons, really, because we've only seen these 2 episodes.
well, let me read you something real quick because I was just seeing it
Mhm.
on here, and they have a little thing of what the Metron said, and see what you think as far as
Right.
what they said in this episode. So basically it says, the Gorn disappears at the end of their battle, Kirk and the Gorn, and a Metron appears to Kirk, congratulating him on not only winning the battle, but showing the advanced trait of mercy for one's enemy, because he didn't kill the Gorn. He could have, but he didn't. Um, anyway, showing the advanced trait of mercy for one's enemies, Kirk declines the Metron's offer to destroy the Gorn ship, leading to the Metron to comment, "You are still half savage, but there is hope," and that the Federation should seek out the Metrons again in several thousand years. And they took the Enterprise and threw it 500 parsecs from where they were.
Why did he throw them so far away? Like, that sounds
Because
like
they were
Q the
done, they
first
were,
time they see the Borg, isn't it? He threw them
then,
far away.
yeah, the Metrons were done with them, and they kind of just said, "All right, come
Did they
back and
throw
talk
them
to us."
back to the point in space they were before, or just
Yeah, the
miles
Gorn ship is
past?
nowhere in range, so they tossed the Gorn ship
Ah, okay, okay,
wherever.
okay. Yeah.
And if you think about it, again, I'm not trying to, well, maybe I am trying to. The writers in the old TOS were definitely better than some of the stuff you're seeing.
Yeah.
Even though there's been some good stuff in Strange New Worlds, it still doesn't compare with the writers in TOS. I'm sorry.
How
So
was the special effect of throwing an Enterprise across 500 parsecs in the 60s?
I don't think they had the capability of doing that. From what I remember, it's kind
Yeah.
of like a blink, and then they were just there
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or something like that. But if you think about it, what the Metron said in the TOS episode makes sense because he's taking it to the next progression. Like, oh, he didn't say it, but it's kind of like you're back or
Yeah,
something. We
yeah.
want to see where you've come from then. And then of course the Metron thinks in this TOS episode that you're getting there, but we don't want to waste any more time with you. Come back in a few thousand years and talk to
A
us.
few thousand years, but that's the weird thing. That doesn't make any sense because between the first visit and the second visit is a matter of years.
Yeah.
Years. And
Yeah.
now he's saying, "Oh, wait a minute, we've gave you round 2 in TOS."
Yeah.
And maybe that answered my own question. Maybe they've had 2 rounds and the Metrons have said, "Okay, we've seen a small improvement, but we haven't seen enough, hence why speak to us in a few thousand years when you're more evolved." It just they should have known that, within a few years, you're not gonna see a difference.
Yeah.
And then
I mean,
also,
yeah.
you as well, Gray, and I've said this to you before, haven't I, that I know they were limited in the '60s, but I don't it's not an excuse for me. When you see when you see the Gorn in the '60s, right, in that first episode, the Gorn looks nothing like the CGI Gorn we've got in the now, right?
Well,
Wha
because they couldn't
that
do it.
that and yeah, no, that annoyed me because if you see the Gorn With Kirk, you think, okay, that's why he's got a chance against it because it's bigger than him, but it's doable. He
It's
can take
slow.
him down,
Yeah.
But when you see the Gorn now, Strange New Worlds, you're like, a fit Gorn and a fit human. The human stands no chance without phasers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it really does. So that's the bit that pisses me off. They shouldn't have
Yeah.
made the Gorn in Strange New Worlds so overpowered. They should have made it more like humanoid size, but kind of reptile like, and it would have
Yeah.
been more believable,
Kinda
So
like
the
a
60s
human
isn't
with
an
a Gorn
excuse.
head as opposed to maybe all Gorn or something.
Yeah, I don't know what you do. Yeah,
Well,
you
see,
you,
this
you
the
put you put a really you put some kind of more decent outfit on a human male or something. Then
well,
I know
the
I'm not nitpicking, mate. It's just it kind of breaks
no, you're not
things
really
a little bit.
nitpicking because you know the expression "poetic license." That means you can sit
Yeah,
there and do what you want, kinda, sort of. So, I think they're taking too much poetic license because there's in other words, like,
yeah,
I don't have a problem with the Enterprise the way it looks. It looks great. I don't have
yeah,
a problem with them modernizing the bridge because you don't wanna have the same old bridge that they had in the
yeah. I
'60s.
don't
I
have a
get
problem
that.
with that either.
Right,
Yeah.
I get that either. So all that kinda stuff is fine.
Mhm.
Learning new backstory about the characters you never knew before, that's all
Mhm.
good. That's Strange New World strengths, but when they start to lean too much on the canon and then decide like, "Well, we have to kinda make
Yeah.
it a little different or maybe more acceptable by the audience," and I'm like, now you're messing up." And
Yeah.
like you said, which is a good point you brought up, why would the Metrons do this whole thing with the Gorn again only like, what, 20
Several
years
years later.
later?
Yeah.
Or
If
e or
that.
not even?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No,
Yeah.
that's not gonna happen."
They know they're smart enough and intelligent enough. That's not enough time
Yeah,
elapsed before they. Yeah. So that's a stupid mess up.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it it's not all I'll say, great, if they're skirting this line of canon, right, and they're doing it all the time, by the end of Strange New Worlds season 5, they have to change the Enterprise similar to the TOS one. We have to pretend that there's some kind of big battle at the end that messes it up quite a lot, and it goes in for repair for like 1 or 2 years and gets literally changed closer to the TOS one, because see if they don't, they're no longer skirting canon. They've went over the line because the current Enterprise looks
yeah.
very different from the TOS one, and it's
Well,
got a different length as well, if you remember right. So
but see, that can be handled real easily. You just give it a
it
paint
can.
job. You just
The
give it
way
a
no,
paint job. That's it.
yeah, no, yeah, you could paint job it, but then it's going to be involved probably in a big fight towards the end of the whole run of Strange New Worlds, and that's the perfect
Yeah.
way to have to refit the thing. But you're right,
I don't well, see, I wouldn't do that because the Enterprise was never refit until the motion picture.
right? I see what you
So you can't
mean.
refit it. The only thing you can do is give it a coat of paint because that's easy.
Right?
So what I
Yeah,
would really
yeah,
like to see, and I don't know if they're gonna do it, is at the end of I would like to see the ship maybe painted its familiar color, or whatever, and then eventually Kirk takes it. There's been a lot of talk, pros and cons about having Paul Wesley, who plays Kirk now in Strange New
yeah,
World, to go on to another season, a new show called Star Trek
yeah.
Year One.
Which we don't want.
Actually, now that I've seen Wesley more, and now that I've kind of read on some of this stuff, I actually would like to see that
But it
because
wouldn't work, great. It wouldn't work because of the time period
no, no,
involved.
no,
You'd
no,
only
it
get
would
one
work.
season out of it. You'd only get one season. What's the
Well,
point in
okay,
it?
but wait a minute. Kirk, when he started out in TOS, had already been
Mhm.
a captain for a while, and he'd already been a seasoned captain. Generally speaking, I mean, so there's at least a few years that we don't know about of what when he was flying around the Enterprise that we never saw until we got dropped into what we saw on TOS.
Um,
Remember, TOS started out. There was no launching of the Enterprise. There was no new crew. It was just there.
But they're remaking it, man. They're remaking TOS, kind of.
No, no, don't remake. What I'm saying is that now I want to see stories of the crew because good thing about Strange New Worlds right now is I like the way they're developing the camaraderie with the cast. Now, I
Yeah.
think the cast is too big,
Yes.
but and they need to cut it down. But basically, you do kind of want to know what Uhura is about. You do kind of want to know what all of them are about. You do
Yeah.
want to see. You do want to see maybe number one some more.
You want to see Scotty be a miracle worker, which we haven't seen properly
Right, how
yet.
he develops into the bigger miracle worker than he is now because
Yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
young now. So this year one theoretically, if it ran, let's say, for 5 years, would give you all that cool backstory and some great adventures, and I think Wesley plays a pretty darn good Captain Kirk. They had a rating on Kirk's, not long ago on the
Mhm.
internet, and they rated him number 2, right behind Shatner, which is pretty good
Mm,
praise. And there was a couple scenes where Wesley, had to take command of his whatever ship it was he had, and then the Enterprise briefly or whatever. And all that looked good. He was really playing the role properly. So I would like to see that. I would also like to see, Legacy or whatever they're going to
well,
call it.
you would be able to keep Pike about for too long because he obviously gets mangled up unless they
Yeah.
can have him in the kind of wheelchair as a admiral or ambassador later on and he makes appearances again. That'd be nice because I wouldn't want him out the scene
Yeah, there's a way,
completely.
right? There's a way to segue what happens because you notice that which they've kind of started in Strange New Worlds, but in TOS when they did that two-parter Menagerie Part 1 and 2, where they
Yeah,
incorporated the footage of the original pilot.
yeah,
Anyway, so Pike comes rolling out in his thing to keep him alive, and his face is all scarred and all that stuff like you
yeah,
see. But he already knows Pike really well. He's calling him Chris. This is Kirk now, calling him Chris, the whole 9 yards. So apparently he got to know Pike quite well somewhere.
yeah,
However, now I would like to see that happen. Now we don't know when this accident is really going to happen per se.
yeah.
So does it happen within this 5-year run that we're talking about, or does it happen in another wherever? So
We'll see.
I would love to see like Anson Mount, let's say, make a couple of guest appearances in a Star Trek Year One that
Yeah,
would kind of solidify the fact that they're pretty
good
good friends,
friends. Yeah, that
or
would be
whatever.
cool.
I
That
mean,
would be cool.
and the thing that's crazy about this is how you and I talk about this and all these neat ideas that you and I come up with, and yet it seems like the people that run Star Trek are like, "Duh."
Well, they're supposed to get Star Trek fans in to actually refer to them to make sure they're not making an arse of it. But yet they keep doing it. So, Greg, we'll wrap up there in a moment. Just give me your score out of 10, considering you're conflicted with this episode.
uh, boy, I'd probably I can't go more than 7, so I'll just say 7, I guess.
I get it. I get it. I would go 8 because I don't remember the arena
Mhm.
episode. But I'm just judging on what I saw today, and I enjoyed the episode on its own for what it is, rather
Yeah,
than comparing it to anything. So it's interesting. Gray and I are normally very similar score, if not the same score. So I get why he's a point lower because he remembers that episode more than I do, and he's conflicted. Like he told me that before. He's like, I enjoyed it, but they're riding that can of mine again. So
yeah,
yeah, I get it, man. I get it, and it was a good redemption arc for Ortega because obviously
yeah,
that
yeah,
Gorn was
yeah.
killed, and it's good to see because the Gorn are part of the Federation in the future, I believe, way in the
Farther in
future.
the future, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so that's a good thing that they are emotional creatures that are capable of empathy and other things. It's just their younger Gorn selves are not the same. So yeah, I enjoyed that. We've got one more episode go, the finale. So far, it's been a good season, Gray. There
yeah,
has been one
yeah.
or two humdingers, but we know that's par for the course. And if there's a humdinger in the last episode, then they've really shot themselves in the foot because you don't do that in the last
Yeah, they
episode.
they
But
need to have a good last episode to do your little natural cliffhanger
yeah,
kind of thingy or
and
whatever.
and if it's a good last episode, this might be the best season yet. If they can pull it off in the last episode, we'll see. But we'll wrap up there, Graham. We'll come back
Yep.
next week, of course, for the finale. I'm looking forward to that. Until next week, say goodbye to the people, please, Gray.
Live long and prosper, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.